stucco lifts, do it, it's a movement, so move it.
So what we're gonna do here is go over the daily CARs, the morning routine. So what CARs are is basically we're trying to isolate a specific joint and then express that joint's full range of motion. And why we do this is for a number of things. One, to preserve and maintain the range of motion that we have currently in the joint, and also as an assessment tool, so that say if we're doing a specific motion and we notice that one thing we're doing feels funky or feels restricted or painful in any way, then this gives us information that can lead to more specific drills to improve that range of motion and then come back to the CARs and then express it again. So there's a couple concepts we have to talk about before we get into this sequence. I'm basically going to walk you through each position, joint by joint, and how we'll execute these drills, and then also common compensations that may happen where the body might want to do other things instead of isolating that joint. So one thing we have to talk first is irradiation. So when we're doing our CARs, what we're going to do is take a big inhale and then kind of trap that air in the lower abdomen, and we're going to stay in this position with the diaphragm extended here. And then basically I'm going to create some tension here in the abdomen that's going to spill into the rest of my body. So when I'm isolating, let's use the neck for example, I want everything else to be engaged lightly. So I'm thinking about kind of a 30% engagement from everything else, just tightening up my arms, tightening up my legs. And what this is going to do is help isolate that specific joint that we're looking to target. And then also what it's going to do is help to convince the nervous system that we do want to actually create some sort of change with time. So then also when we're moving through our CARs, what we have to think about is the self-imposed resistance that we're going to use. So essentially when I'm moving through a range of motion, I'm picturing moving through air that is 10% denser than what air actually is. So just meaning if I'm moving my arm here, 0% resistance would be this. 10% would be something like this, me putting a self-imposed resistance to move super slow, smooth, and controlled through these ranges of motion and not just jump through spots that feel a little sticky. So with these concepts in mind, this is the morning routine. We're not going all out max effort, 10% on the resistance we're putting on ourselves, 30% with that irradiation. So we're gonna start up top with the neck. So I'm gonna inhale, trap that air in my lower abdomen, engage everything else. The sequence for the neck is going to be chin down to the shoulder. I'm gonna rotate my head to one side, drop my ear to that shoulder, and then take my chin up and around, rotate to the other side, ear down to that shoulder, chin down, and then finish that rotation back to the start. And then same thing the other direction, rotate, ear down, neck up and around, ear down to the other side, and then chin back and through. So all of these, we should be doing 3 to 5 reps per side. I'm just gonna show you one for each. That's the sequence for the neck. Compensations we might see is shoulders wanting to shrug up or the rest of the spine wanting to wiggle around. So just keep a check on yourself. Sometimes videoing yourself can help you to have realizations of where we might be slipping a little bit. Now we're gonna move for an entire spinal approach. So what you're gonna do is basically, if you can, you're gonna hug onto your scaps here. If not, just give yourself a hug, whatever feels comfy. And then I'm going to soften my knee a little bit and sit my hips back. What we're gonna look for compensation here is the hips kind of wanna spill all around. So try to keep the hips locked down. I'm going to flex down maximally, rotate to one side, drop that shoulder down, come up and around, rotate the other way, drop this shoulder down, and then finish that rotation back and through. So just to show you from the side, flex down maximally, rotation in one direction, drop that shoulder, extend up and around to the other side, drop that shoulder, and then finish the rotation through. So compensations may come from the hips, or you might just notice this one might feel a little funky at first. We're gonna do another targeted spinal drill later that might feel a little comfier if this one doesn't feel good. So next we're gonna move on to the shoulder blades, the scapula. So basically when we think about the shoulder blades, we're talking about the relationship between them and the rib cage. So what we're gonna do for sequence here, inhale, irradiate. I'm going to shrug my shoulders up, pull them back, retract them, drop them down, and then reach them forward. Up, back, down, forward, and then reversing that movement, back, up, forward, down, back, up, forward, down. Compensation we'll want to see is the neck wanting to do things either way, or the spine wanting to move. So try to just stay stiff through the entire trunk and just get those shoulder blades to move. If you've never moved them before, that one might feel a little bit different too. Next, we're going to focus on the shoulder joint itself. So what we're going to do is inhale, irradiate. I'm going to make a fist with the arm. I'm going to flex my shoulder maximally until I hit my initial roadblock. So it might not be all the way up overhead, might be here before something else happens at the spine. Watch for that low back wanting to extend. Once I hit top end here, I'm going to rotate my arm in and think about winding in maximally, not just turning my hand in, but thinking about taking the whole shoulder, winding it in until I hit a block, and then starting to cut that angle back down extension as I continue to rotate in. So that ideally at end range, my shoulder is completely rotated in with my palm facing outward. I'm going to reverse that movement by extending my arm back, rotating the arm outward, and then coming back up and around. Just show you from the front view. Max flexion, internal rotation, extend as I continue to rotate in, extend back, and then come out and around, rotate outward maximally, and then back to the start. We're also going to do some specific just rotation for the shoulder. So I'm going to sit up with my elbows up here, and then just rotate down and in as much as I can, and then rotate out as much as I can, trying to make sure that my shoulder blade isn't changing its position and I'm just moving through this ball and socket joint of the shoulder itself. I don't want my head to poke forward. I don't want my wrist to bend. A lot of times with the shoulder, what we'll see is when we're cutting this angle into internal rotation, the trap wants to jump over, or we want to shrug the spine to get out of the way there. So try to just isolate and get as much as you can. What I'm showing, especially in terms of my range of motion, is not the same as yours or anybody else's. So we're just trying to look at for what our full range of motion is and maintain and preserve that. Next, we're going to move to the elbows. So what I like to do is take my index finger and put it on the inside of my elbow, irradiate, build tension. I'm going to turn my palm out maximally and flex and bend my elbow, and then I'm going to rotate my palm down maximally and extend my elbow. Palm up and in, palm out and down, and after 3 to 5, you reverse that movement. Palm down as you flex in, turn the palm up maximally, and extend down. Next, we move to the wrist. A lot of times with the wrist is we want to have that kind of turn of the forearm like we were just working on for the elbow. So kind of support the forearm, or I like placing a phone or some object on the top of your forearm, and you'll notice if it's going to go side to side, it'll fall off. So I'm going to support the wrist here. I'm going to take my pinky in, extend the wrist, thumb in, flex up. Pinky in, extend, thumb out, flex up, then reverse that movement, thumb out, extend, pinky in, wrist up. Ankles and wrists, we might get a lot of that kind of snapping. A lot of times just the tendons jumping back and forth. If it's non-painful, I'm not really concerned about it. And a lot of times there might feel a little bit restricted range of motion. This might not feel like you have the most range in the world, but don't be concerned about that. So now what we're going to do is move down to the ground. A lot of these positions we can do standing. If you need modifications, just let me know. But we're going to focus on the spine in a new position. So we're going to do the cat camel drill. And the way we're going to do this is a slow segmented fashion. So every time I'm going to start at my lower back and work my way piece by piece up to the neck. And then once I achieve my max flex position, I'm going to start back here and move piece by piece back up to the neck. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to think about kind of flexing and pulling my lower back underneath me. Moving into the middle back, upper back, into the neck, so I'm maximally flexed out. I start back at the lower back, keeping everything up top where it is. Extend, arch, into the middle back, into the upper back, and then all the way up to the neck. Always maintaining what I've got up top when we go back into the next one. This is a great tool to realize what segments of the spine don't really want to move, and if we even have awareness to be able to move certain segments independently of others. So next we're going to stay in the same all-fours position, and we're going to focus on hip CARs. A lot of times what we got with the hip is that the spine will want to move around a lot, or the pelvis is going to want to shift either way. Try to move in a small range of motion, isolated just to this ball and socket joint of the hip. So I'm going to irradiate. I'm going to flex my knee up maximally. I'm going to turn my knee up to the side and then rotate in. And how I'm going to do that is by turning my heel out, not trying to change my knee's position or drop it down. This is going to be the one that, gives the most cramping or sometimes feels uncomfortable or awkward. So just think in, out, rotate in as I extend back. Trying not to extend the spine or let the hips shift in either direction. In, out, rotate in, cut back. After 3 to 5, we reverse that movement. Cut back, turn the knee out, and then up and around. So do that each side. Then we move to the knee. So when we're talking about the knee, what we have here is a little bit of rotation from the tibia, the big thick shin bone, on the knee. A lot of time is often neglected, but I should be able to have some rotation here. So what we're gonna do is set up, if possible, with a rear naked choke grip. I'm gonna hook underneath here onto my bicep and then grab this top of my thigh to make sure that my thigh isn't wiggle around. If that position is uncomfortable, you can just grab the thigh with either hand, but I don't want my thigh bone to rotate. I wanna isolate it for below the knee. So I'm gonna sit up here, I'm gonna turn my foot out to rotate that tibia out, extend, turn in, and then flex back in. I would do 3 to 5 there, and then rotate and change that movement. Extend out here, and then rotate out, rotate in, extend, rotate out, flex down. So then we can keep that same position if it's comfy to hold it. If not, I'm just gonna support under the thigh and then hold at the shin as we move down to focus on the ankle, because when the ankle is gonna go through its range of motion, we might wanna have some of that rotation we just trained there for the tibia. So I'm gonna set up in the same grip, holding and supporting that tibia to make sure that it doesn't come along for the ride. We're gonna take toes up, turn the foot out, extend the foot down, toes in, and then up again. 3 to 5 in each range, and I'm gonna reverse the movement after doing that. So I'm gonna think foot in, toes down, turn it out, flex up. So we're gonna focus on the patella a little bit here. So what we should have is the ability for a patella to slide freely around. If I have a previous knee injury and I can't really fully extend the knee, I might not be able to get this, but what we should have is just being able to passively take this patella and slide it laterally, slide it up, slide it out, and then slide it down. This is just a passive one that we're taking it through its full range of motion, but we should be able to express that freely. Might feel different if you've never moved that around before. And if it doesn't move at all, feel free to shoot me a message and we can talk about that. So we're gonna do the patellas on each side. And the last one we're gonna do, you're gonna come back to a standing position. You can focus down here on my feet. This one a lot of times is different too. We're gonna focus on the toes. If we have no sensation in the feet, this might feel difficult, but think about it. If you took your hands and basically smashed them into gloves all day, you would lose the ability to move your fingers freely and have that fine motor control. Same thing with our feet. We put them in shoes all day and we forget about them, and having loss of sensation on the bottom of our foot is gonna be a precursor for a lot of negative health issues down the road. So what we're gonna do is just think about lifting only the big toe in isolation and then placing it back down. Not trying to have my foot roll out as I do so. Keep my foot generally pretty flat to the ground. And then I'm going to keep the big toe planted and then raise the out or foretoes. Not trying to have my ankle collapse inward as I do so. So we do that 3 to 5 for each. Then I'm going to raise all of them, check down just the big toe, keeping the outer fore up. And then I'm going to keep my big toe up and then check down the outer fore. So this one, you might not be able to have this movement at first, but just try to think about creating this movement. If you realize you can't get this at all, then it's something that we definitely need to work on. Because you get a better connection with the ground, you'll feel your hips and your back just kind of line up better. So this is the daily routine. 3 to 5 reps per side. Ideally, 10% resistance we're moving through, 30% irradiation through the rest of the body to help isolate that joint. And then use this as an assessment tool. Try these different drills out and notice where your restrictions are, and then take them to either me or another fitness professional or a healthcare practitioner who is familiar with the system to be able to help you to increase the range of motion, take them back to your cars and make them a smoother, more fluid movement.